Hey, it's Kindness Week.
I'm so excited. My favorite week of the year.
We've got like the perfect fit for Kindness Week. We've got people that have been waving the kindness banner way before Kindness Week.
I mean, their name is kindness.
It's kindness.
So it's so perfect that we're having this conversation today.
Yes. So we're really excited. We have got Holly Barrón on the line with us today. And Holly has got an incredible story of really taking the legacy of her amazing son forward, Keaton. And today we're going to dive into Keaton's story, but I want to tell you a little bit about Holly and her husband, Luke. Luke works in the restaurant industry, and Holly spends her days raising their three precious boys, but their full-time side passion is running Keaton's K Club. Holly's the president and Luke's the treasurer of the Kindness Club, and it was founded by their 7-year-old son, Keaton, in January of 2018. The K Club, and I had heard about this just from my kiddos going to elementary school here in Edmond, Oklahoma, but it's all about being kind to others and being courageous and compassionate and caring and really coming alongside families as they're enduring some of the hardest times of their life, battling cancer or being in the hospital. But they're just a great support network and lift kids that are going through such traumatic things. And so it's a difficult conversation, but one that is just wrought with so much love for your child. And I think all of us just feel so appreciative of this time that we get to talk and hear the story. So I would just love to kick it to Holly and say, hey, thanks for being here today.
Super Mom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me tell Keaton's story. It's my favorite thing to do.
Well, thank you so much. I would love if you would just kind of give our listeners some context to Keaton's life and the story and kind of how this all came to be.
Sure. Keaton, I always tell everybody, was the perfect baby. He was just like super laid back. We said he was an 80-year-old man in a 2-year-old's body.
Oh,
Old soul. Jinx joke.
Yeah. He would say things like "my lady," and like he was just. And I worked for our church at that time. Just took him everywhere with me, and he did great. Just an amazing kid. And when he was 2.5, he had a bunch of illnesses that just didn't really make sense together, like a low-grade fever or an infected finger, just like little things. And we went to the doctor a couple of times, and they would maybe give him antibiotics or just say, oh, he's a growing kid. This would make sense. And finally, we were at like a little kids gymnastics class, and he sat down and refused to do what he was supposed to do next. And his coach said, this isn't like him. Maybe you should take him back. And I said, I feel like I'm crazy. And she was like, you're not crazy. Just take him back one more time. And so our amazing pediatrician fit us in over the lunch break and did blood work and everything. And she was gone for a really long time. And when she came back, she said those words that no parent ever wants to hear. She said, it looks like leukemia. And she said, I want you to take him straight to Children's. Don't stop. They'll be waiting for you. And so we took him to the hospital, and they immediately took him into ICU. We later found out his white blood cell count was so high that they had to dilute it 3 times to even count it. And it was one of the highest white blood cell counts they'd ever seen. So they took him straight into ICU. We got an official diagnosis of acute lymphoblastic leukemia the next day. And that was August 30th, 2012. And so he started treatment immediately. He did great. Your life is canceled at that point. Everything, school, activities, everything just stops completely. And so we went through that, and he actually did really well. Treatment for acute lymphoblastic leukemia for boys is 3.5 years. So from when he was 2.5 to almost 6, he was in treatment. And he ended up being able to go back to school after about a year and did really well. And so he rang the bell in January of 2016. And we were so excited cancer was over. We were never going to talk about it again and just move on. And unfortunately, just a couple months later, again, unexplained illnesses, he had a stomach virus that would seem to come and go away and come and go away. And then one day I held him up to the he was standing at the kitchen and he said he couldn't tell what time it was on the clock, just like a regular digital clock. And I held him up and I said, "What are these numbers?" And he said, "I can't see the numbers." And they were right in front of his face. And so we went back to the doctor and they checked his vision. His vision was fine. So the day after his 6th birthday, they let him have his birthday, which I'm so glad. We did a spinal tap and they found out that the leukemia was back. And the reason he couldn't see was it was in his spinal fluid and it was pushing on his optic nerve. He wasn't able to see. So we started treatment again. And this time it was going to last 2 years and it was even more intense, super scary. I was pregnant with our 3rd child at that point, and he went back into treatment. This kid never complained. I mean, he would go to the clinic, never said he didn't want to go, did exactly what the nurses asked him to do, was always in a good mood. And so, you know, we'd had this big party and said cancer was over. And one time he cried and he said, "I don't want to do this anymore." And I said, "I don't want to do this either. I'm so sorry." And from that second on, he did exactly what we wanted. Again, I mean, one time he said, "I don't want to do it again." And that's what he had known his whole life. So he was back in treatment. It ended up that he was in the hospital when I had our 3rd child. So he was at Children's in Oklahoma City and I was at Mercy in Oklahoma City. So it took 5 adults just to get me to the hospital and him taken care of. And the other kids, it was crazy. And so he actually did pretty well again. And we were just doing routine blood work before we went out of town in July of 2017. And they called us aside and told us that leukemia was back again. And this time it was back while he was on treatment. So it was even scarier. And so we ended up having to go off of the regular protocol and try some clinical trials and that kind of thing. And in the process of that, he had all kinds of horrible side effects from all the chemo that had been pumped into his body. He had a seizure and didn't wake up for a week. Needed physical therapy, occupational therapy, all those kinds of things. Same thing. The kid is so happy, so sweet, so kind, always caring about other people. Like when the kids get a procedure, they get to pick a toy out of a toy closet because it's a pretty big deal. He would pick out toys and bring them home to his brothers. Like he didn't even keep toys for himself. It got to the point where he would just choose them for other people. So we were trying to get him in remission for a stem cell transplant and we just couldn't get there. So we ended up going to Dallas for this CAR T-cell therapy that was brand new. It had been FDA approved like a month before he was supposed to get it. And so literally brand new. 1 dose of that drug, not the care before, not the care after, not the administration, nothing. 1 dose of that drug is $475,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went to Dallas and ultimately that didn't work. And we brought him home on a like a charity meta-flight thing and brought him back to Oklahoma City. And he was in the hospital for about a month or so, a couple weeks. And then we took him home and he passed away on May 11th of 2018, right after his 8th birthday. So throughout all of that, he just continued to worry about everybody else before himself. Luke always tells the story. One night he was up late, probably the week he passed away, and he was up late just in horrible pain. And Keaton never even took Tylenol when he was hurting. I mean, his pain tolerance was through the roof. So the fact that he was hurting. And Luke was sitting up with him in the night, and he was like, "Oh, Daddy, I'm so sorry. You have to get up tomorrow. You can go to bed. You don't have to sit with me." I mean, this kid was just a saint. An amazing kid. So he just charmed everybody he met. He was so kind. He was so sweet. It was really just like a privilege to be his parent. Like I think Luke and I both felt that, like to be given this gift. As hard as it was, we would have done it over and over and over again because he was just so just like a privilege to get to raise him. But we always say we didn't do anything. Like he was just born that way.
And I think the thing that I love so much about the story is he was love. He was like the embodiment of love. He was the embodiment of kindness. And here you have an 8-year-old boy who is doing the things that we as adults aspire to do and to model for our kids in this life. And those are just the most fantastic moments for me, is when your kids teach you something and your kids model what you're trying to be into the world. And this is such a difficult story. And as a mom, like, I'm trying to keep it together for you right now in this situation. And I have so much inspiration from hearing you talk about this, because you are having to go into the most painful part of your life over and over again to make sure that this club and this legacy lives on. And so you're having to relive the pain. But I also have to think, like, from a glass is half full, what a gift that you get to go back into that space, because Keaton's legacy of love and kindness just keeps rippling on and on and on every time that you do it. So I wonder if you could kind of talk to us about how the Kindness Club was created, because as I understand it, he created it in the hospital while he was getting treatment, right?
Yeah. Like, I firmly believe that this whole thing was Keaton's gift to us. So he was in the hospital. He actually had the flu. So when children who are on chemotherapy get a fever, they have to go in the hospital no matter what. So he was just there with the flu. And our friend Kay Tegner, who has volunteered at the Children's Hospital for 25 years doing crafts with the kids every single Tuesday, had called and said, can I come visit him? Because she knew that he had been in and out of the hospital a ton at this point. And I said, well, he has the flu. Like, you have to put on a mask and a gown and gloves. That was weird at this point in time. It's not weird. But and she was like, yeah, I that's fine. I'll come talk to him. And so she literally walked in the door, set her bag down and said, Keaton, I think we should start a club. And I think she just thought, well, that would be a fun activity for us this afternoon. And so I was sitting in there and I watched them. In the next hour and a half, they talked about, well, what's our club going to be about? And what's it going to be called? And all this stuff. So they decided to call it the K Club, because we called him K. And then her name is Kay. And they decided that it would be all about kindness. And Luke always says, if I'm 7, I'm making like a Lego club or a Star Wars club or something. I'm not making a kindness club, but he made a kindness club. And they were going to just do kind deeds for people, spread kindness. Their mission was to be kind to others, be courageous, compassionate, and caring. They made up anything you could think of. Their official lunchtime was 11:30. Their official snack was a cereal bar. Their official drink was water. They came up with all the things that you need for
I love it.
I could just see branding, like a packaging around it.
You have to tell the piece about the branding too. I mean, he drew the logo, right?
Yes, we asked him to draw the logo, and he drew the logo. Kay had him write his name. So when you get your official K Club membership card, he has signed the back as the president. It was really sweet. The clubhouse was the chapel at the hospital, and the mascot was therapy dogs, because he loved the therapy dogs. And one of the funniest things is that everything we do is green, because that was Keaton's favorite color, but the official colors are orange, white, and blue. And we go saying, Keaton, your favorite color is green. And he was like, I know, but that's not the colors. So colors are not what we actually wear or promote all the time.
So he's thinking of other people.
Like, yeah, he's thinking of what other people's.
It's not my favorite color
That's
here.
Exactly
it's other
right.
people's colors.
I think it was a Thunder OSU reference, but membership dues were going to be $1, and he said, we'll spend that money on charity. And I was like, oh, charity from the 7-year-old. Okay.
Old soul.
Dues were $1 or whatever you could afford, and to join you had to have a K in your name or know someone with a K in your name. They created this whole thing, and I think it was just going to be a fun thing for kids to do at the clinic. Like, they could bring a penny and join the K Club, and we made the little cards to hand out, and it was just going to be this cute thing. Well, then Kay says, well, K kind of means 1,000, so we should get 1,000 members. We're like, that's a lot of people, but okay, so we got 1,000 members. And then she He said, well, we probably need a member in every state. So then we got a member in every state. And so of all of that, Keaton was in intense treatment and we had to go to Dallas. And while we were there, Oklahoma State University contacted us and asked us to go to a volunteer fair. And we were like, we're not even a thing. And so I think we had maybe 2 weeks notice. We got t-shirts printed and Kay set up a table and we were at a volunteer fair within a couple weeks. So that was kind of the first event that happened. And it was so neat to see people holding up t-shirts and stuff, and we could show Keaton. We let him make the decisions as far as what we spent money on. So when membership dues were $1 or whatever you could afford, we pictured little kids bringing up a dime or a penny to join. But Kay has some really amazing friends, and all of a sudden they were spending $20 or $50, and now this 7-year-old has money to spend. And so we kind of presented him with some ideas, and he built a well in Africa. He bought part of a cow through Heifer International. We ordered treats for all of the nurses when we were in Dallas. It was around Valentine's Day. So we bought balloons and cute little things to tie to the doors for all the kids on his floor at the hospital. We taped dollar bills to vending machines, just anything that we could think of to spread kindness while we were in Dallas. And then our family was kind of doing some of that here. And so after Keaton passed away, a friend approached us and she said, if you want to turn this into a nonprofit, I will pay that filing fee and I have somebody who will help you with the paperwork. And so we just said, sure. And ever since then, it's been a door opens and we walk through it. A door opens and we walk through it. And now we're just growing super fast. It's been so good. Luke and I say, I think Keaton left us this gift. We worked 24/7 for that kid his entire life. And it was our privilege and our joy to do that. And so when we didn't have that opportunity anymore, we needed something to pour our energy into. And so this gave us that opportunity to keep working for him and to keep working for kids like him who are fighting so hard. So as we plan the K Club, all of our projects either go with Keaton's original mission of just spreading kindness to everyone, period. For no reason, we don't want anything in return, straight kindness, which is something that people are not used to these days. It's kind of like, well, what do you want from me? Literally nothing. I just want to do something nice for you. And then all of the other projects are centered around what we needed or experiences that we had when Keaton was fighting cancer, or things that the hospital have asked us to do, or struggles that we've seen other families have. And then we tie those back to Keaton's passions and Keaton's interests, and kind of tie it all together so that it's still about him. But we're hopefully helping those families and fighting for a cure so that other families don't have to lose their children and that kids don't have to suffer like Keaton did.
I love hearing how y'all have just carried this torch forward. And I know my wife and I would be the exact same way, that you just feel this purpose and feel that you want to continue his legacy. I want to tell, I was sitting at a kids assembly last year when we didn't have to wear masks and we were all huddled together on the floor, right, at Cleghorn Elementary. And I remember the K Club coming in and saying, we're putting together a Lego drive and we don't want your chintzy Legos. This is not where this is for. We want to show up to these kids that are fighting, cancer. We want to bring them the sets that they never thought that they could get.
Harry Potter, Star Wars, bring it.
I know. And I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but it's like my son's super into Legos. And I know the difference of, he always appreciates a Lego, but when you get $100 Lego set, it is like transformational. And so for somebody that's fighting cancer, that's the kind of small but meaningful things that I know K Club does. And I think it's just so impactful. I wonder if you would share some of the programs that y'all have done or some fun stories that have come out of that as well.
Oh yeah. You mentioned Legos. That's our favorite project by far. Keaton was obsessed with Legos, and they're great at the hospital because they're portable. The kids can do them in bed. It's good for fine motor skills. It keeps them super focused and distracted from everything else that's going on. So immediately we're like, we need to do Legos. So once a month we take Legos up for a Lego party. Well, pre-COVID, now we just drop them off, but it's fine. So we would set up tables and we would set it up like to look like the Lego store as much as we could. We take probably 50 to 70 sets and set them up. And then the kids get to come in and pick whatever they want. And so it's really cool, like that they get a choice. That's one thing that we're big on. They get so few choices in their lives that we want them to get to pick. So they get to come out and pick a Lego. The way that we've done it right now, since we can't go up there, is that we create a catalog with about 50 Lego sets in it. And then the amazing child life specialists go room to room and let the kids pick what they want. And then we drop them off later that day. So they're still getting that choice. They still get to see all the cool sets and pick what they want. But we can't wait to get back up there and actually see them, because we usually take cookies and blankets and pillowcases and books and, whatever we have that could bring some fun. Like they usually leave with armfuls of stuff. But a couple parties before, I think the last party we got to do was February. A couple parties before that, this mom came out and she had probably a teenage daughter. And she said, this is her first admission. She just got diagnosed. It's her first time to be in for chemo. She said, we were at our wits' end. We had watched movies. We had done everything we could possibly do. We didn't know what in the world, how we were going to get through the rest of the day. And she was like, and then you showed up with these Legos. And she has been so happy and focused for an hour and a half. And I was like, this is exactly why we're doing this. Like, I wished I'd had like a recorder. I'm like, can you write that down? Like, literally, that is the exact reason that we do it. And I've even said, like, I don't care if these kids never open this box. If it was fun for them to come pick out a giant box and carry it around for an hour, great. Like anything that's a distraction is just so great to know that somebody cares about you, somebody thought about you, there's something to break up your day. That's why, that's our favorite one by far. I think one of the most impactful programs is called K Cares, and it's for families who've lost a child to cancer. So we pay a portion of their funeral costs and then provide a photo canvas for them to use like at a funeral service and then to keep. Unfortunately, I think I paid one yesterday. So we've paid for 6 funerals this year already in 2020. And that's a hard one, and it's not a fun one, and it's, one of the more expensive things that we do. But I think it's the most important because these families already have thousands of dollars of medical bills after years of treatment, and now they have to pay, the average funeral is $7,000 to $9,000 on top of all of that, and they've just lost their child. Like, no one should have to pay for their funeral. So as we expand, our hope is that we can just pay 100%. Call up, pay for the funeral, it's done. They don't have to worry about it. We also do K-Packs, which are just care packs for children who are in hospice. And these are filled with things that we found that were comforting for Keaton, like in kind of the last couple weeks. They have a canvas and paints. And one of my favorite things, so we just give them a canvas and paints, and then they can do handprints or family handprints or whatever, just something to capture their child. And one of the families did a real cool thing. The sister painted a tree, and then each family member did different colored thumbprints on the tree. So now they have this painting that has all their family's thumbprints together, which I thought was really cool. But it has the canvas and paints, a stuffed animal, and a recordable book, because one of my good friends sent me a recordable book for Keaton, and he recorded it for his brothers so that we have him reading a book to them. So that's been really fun. My favorite thing, one of the favorites are called K-Boosts, and that kind of just came out of life, and then we had to name it. So the hospital would be like, we have a kid with a birthday, can you throw him get him a cake and balloons and gifts and decorations? And then we have a kid who's having a really hard time, could they get an extra Lego set or whatever? And so we're like, well, we need to name this so that we can do it. So basically,
baby.
Yeah. So anything that a kid or a child, a patient needs, even a family. We did gas cards for a family who was traveling really far. We did grocery cards for a mom who didn't know how she was going to feed her daughter, let alone pay for treatment. So those are my favorite. And the one that always touches me the most was one of the first ones that we did. The child life specialist called and said, we have a little boy who is under hospice care, and he is going to throw a party for his friends to say goodbye. Oh. And of course it turned out this little boy was 8, and he was going to have a party to tell everybody goodbye. And he wanted to be sure that his friends had party favors because he was worried about his guests at this party. Like, I was just blown away. And they said that same thing. It was this kid's personality. He was worried about everybody else. And so we put together the most over the top, like anything that I could find. This was a jungle themed party, treat bags for his guests and for some of the staff, so that he could throw this party for his friends. And just to be like, what an honor to be involved in something so important, you know? I mean, that was just, of course we will do that. We're, you know, just honored to be able to be a small part of something that's so important.
I think one of the things I want to ask you about, Holly, is about healing. And I have always felt deep down in my heart that philanthropy has the ability to come into spaces, I wouldn't say to entirely heal, but to make an awful situation maybe just a little bit better. And I wonder if, you know, there's a lot of people listening right now who are fighting some battle within their family right now, you know. And I mean, with COVID, I mean, it could be financial or food insecurity. It could be mental illness. It could be maybe the loss of a child or a loved one. Can you talk a little bit about what the K Club has done for your family and for you personally to help you heal in any way, or maybe just how you've been able to just kind of cling on to this club, and how that's been able to buoy you all in a way that brings that kindness and love and brings and what I would think like Keaton back to you over and over again?
I think it's just keeping him in the front of our minds all the time. It gives us a chance to talk about him. It gives us a chance to remember him. It's taking his beautiful spirit and trying to like move that forward, because I mean, we lost our child, but I feel like the world lost this amazing soul that could have done so much. And so we're keeping that going. It's very hard to feel sorry for yourself when you're watching all these other people fight the same battle. I think it's harder to watch. We lost two girls that we were really close to this year, like recently.
So sorry.
We're just close to their families through K Club. And those were the first two that I've known really well. Normally we just hear about a family and we help them, but maybe we haven't really met them in person yet. We were closer to these families, and it hurt worse because I know how those moms feel. Like, I'm not an outsider who's like, oh, that must be sad, I can't imagine. And when people say, oh, I can't imagine, I say, please don't try. Because first of all, you can't imagine. You can't. It's impossible. But I would never want anyone to try, because I don't want anyone to go through that. So if there are people on the journey that we had to go through, and we can make that journey a little bit better, even for an hour out of their day, we're going to do that, because that's who Keaton was. That's his spirit. And it gives us kind of a perspective to keep going. I think if we sat around and felt sorry for ourselves, it'd be very, very easy to do that. But I think we have such a mission. There are times where I drive myself crazy. I'm like, we have to heal all these kids right now. And then I have to say, that's not my job. I can't do that. There are little pieces that we can do. You know, we raise money for pediatric cancer research. We try to bring joy to these families as much as possible. But I think the mission is so strong, and we just feel it so strongly that it keeps us really focused, really busy. It just gives us a way to work.
Thank you for that. I mean, I think it's hard to ever know how to respond, but I think you've given us a lot just in that of how to be empathetic and supportive and loving to people facing these kind of things. So I'm just so thankful for your vulnerability on that specifically. Holly, you are just a wealth of wisdom, and I think, you know, what you have done to stand up this club and keep fighting when it's like so hard. I think that's a mantra we all need right now. 2020 is throwing a lot of curveballs in every direction for everybody, but you just kept going. Something we ask all of our guests is to share one good thing, and it could be a mantra, or it could be a tip, a hack of what you have found to be true, that's maybe a secret to success or just to finding joy? What would that be for you?
I think what we found is when we're having a bad day, when we're anxious about something, or when we're particularly sad, especially about Keaton, we will go spread kindness. And so when we notice that we're having a rough time, we go do something for somebody else. And that sounds like, oh my goodness, we're so holy. But it's selfish. Like
Yeah.
Luke and I, on one of the anniversaries of one of the monthly anniversaries of Keaton passing away, we were just hurting really, really badly. And we ended up we went to dinner and we were like, we're going to buy everybody dessert. And it was in January. And so we bought everybody in the like 2 rows next to us in the restaurant dessert. Well, it was January and everybody was dieting and they're like, oh no, we're fine. We don't. We're like, we are sad. You have to take our dessert.
Can we change that for a side salad? Thank you.
We bought side salads for everyone in the restaurant and they were mad at us.
We were like, we are sad. You have to take our dessert. This is not for you. This is for us. Like, take our dessert. So I just think a tip for everybody, like when the world feels out of control, or like you're angry or you're sad or you're worried, like find a way to do something for somebody else. You can pay for the person behind you in line. You can leave a nice note on somebody's windshield. You can go chalk somebody's driveway. You can buy an extra cookie and drop it off. Like there's somebody who you can thank for something, whether it's like a teacher or your mail carrier, or anybody who does any type of service. The Amazon delivery guy, like leave a package out on your porch for them. There's something that you can do for somebody, and I think that just makes a big difference to do something for somebody else and get out of your own worry for a little bit.
So how can people get involved in the K Club? I mean, the thing that Julie has said, and Julie's been connected to the K Club, to some of the art program. And I want people to know K Club is legit nonprofit. Holly is talking about all these little one-offs, but you all have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't even know if you want to share that number, and it's unimportant to us, but it's like you all have risen up in a mighty, mighty way. And I want people to know, and I thought this was such a good point that Julie made, that we can always choose kindness. And I love your one good thing, because especially in the darkness, we can choose kindness. That's when we need to seek out the light. And I feel like the K Club story, to me, there's such I am grieving the fact that he is gone, but I feel like hope at the end of this conversation, because we can all subscribe to this ideal that he was living it all the time. So how can someone anywhere in the world get involved and join K Club?
So people can go to our website and still join the K Club for the low price of $1. And our website is our website is kclubkindness.org. It tells Keaton's story and kind of has some of our events, but you can still join for $1. That money still goes to charity. One cool thing about us too is that we have no paid staff. We have no office building. Even our storage unit is donated. So a huge portion of what we raise goes directly to the kids. It is a very, very small portion that we have to spend on accounting software and paper or something like that. So we are on social media. Everything is K Club Kindness. So Instagram's at K Club Kindness, Twitter is K Club Kindness. But people can join the K Club. They can order Keaton cards that have his picture and his story on one side, and then on the other side it says, this act of kindness was brought to you by Keaton and his K Club. And so when you pay for somebody's dinner, or buy somebody a tank of gas, or buy somebody a Sonic drink, or pay for somebody behind you in line, you can just give the person that card, and they know that this act of kindness was from a K Club member. And then it gives them the chance to go post their blessings on social media, which is pretty cool. We love when somebody gets a kindness card and then goes online and posts about it, so we can see what's been done. And there have been some really cool things that have come from that. People that we've met who now volunteer with us, or one year Luke bought a cookie cake for someone on my birthday to cheer me up. He spread kindness in that way. And it turned out to be a cookie cake for an 8-year-old little boy for his birthday. And it's just like things like that happen over and over again, where it's like we can just see, you know, Keaton's hand in all of it. World Kindness Day is coming up in November. The actual date is November 13th, but we're going to celebrate on November 14th. And we are going to chalk around town kind messages, hopefully at churches and schools and that kind of thing, so that people walking can just get cheered up by our kindness. So there's all the information about that on Instagram and Facebook that'll kind of tell. We're going to hand out chalk and chalking assignments, and then just people can safely go with their family and go chalk for us and try to spread Keaton's message even more.
I wish I would have thought of that. That is such a brilliant idea. We should have chalked polling places with just kindness and loving words. I mean, imagine, I mean, that to me is the thread of all of this, is everyone can do this. Everyone can be kind. Everyone can lean into empathy, and joy, and spreading it around. And I mean, you don't have to be an adult to do it. A child could take chalk and go draw anywhere in the world. And I just love that a 7-year-old boy, an 8-year-old boy inspired such a massive movement, and his footprint is going to be that of a giant someday when you think about how many ripples this will affect. So I just thank you so much for coming into our community, bringing kindness to us, sharing your beautiful boy with us, and letting us just have some light during Kindness Week. Thank you, Holly.
And access all the show notes for all those links. We'll link up everything Holly just mentioned. So
go join the K Club.
Join the K Club. It's for the bargain price of $1. And if you don't have it, I'm sure we can find some angel donors for you.
Yep. Just send us an email.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
We appreciate you so much.